Hey everybody, in this video we'll take a look at using a common intent in Android to call up a map with a specific location. So here I have just an empty app and you can see I've got just a single Java file with a main activity, and here's the corresponding layout, and we call this XML layout right here using this set content view call inside the onCreate method. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a set onClick listener call to add an onClick method to a button in that layout, and then when we click on the button we'll actually create an intent and let the Android operating system try to resolve the activity specified in the intent and then start the activity for that map intent. So first thing that we need to do is we need to go to the layout and add a button object or button widget. And once you add a widget to the layout, you can look on the right hand side here and see in Android Studio that it has properties. So just like we'd see in any modern development environment, and that has an ID. So I'm going to call this map button, and let's give it a text description of open map. Okay, so now it displays the text open map, and we can see that it has an ID map button. We'll use that ID to find the widget from our onCreate method. So we want to call the parent class onCreate method, and we also want to leave that set content view because we want to load up the layout for our main activity. Now we're going to create a button object because we want to do something on that, on the onClick for our new button. And the way that we grab the button from the layout is using this find view by ID method, and specify the name that, or the ID that we gave our button. Okay, you can see there's a problem there. We need to add an import for our button. So we're going to import a couple of things. Android, which we want to get the view. We're also going to add the button here. Okay, now button makes sense. Okay, so now that we've got our map button, we're going to call set onClick listener. And that view class provides our onClick listener method. And now inside of here we're going to define the method that's called. Which will be onClick. And we'll set in our view. Now, whenever we create an implicit intent, we're going to send in some information so that the operating system can handle that implicit intent. And to call up the map app that's the default on the phone, we call it using this URI, which is prefixed with geo. And then we send in latitude and longitudinal coordinates. and we're going to parse this into a URI object. So now we're going to create our intent. And we're going to specify action view. So we want this to be an implicit intent. We want the operating system, the Android operating system, to be able to determine what happens. So that the user has some ability to specify what applications they want to use, and to make it a little easier to handle between different versions of the phones here. So because not all phones are going to have each implicit intent that we send in, maybe a phone can't handle this type of implicit intent, we're going to call this method resolve activity. And if resolve activity returns null, that means that the device that we're on can't handle the implicit intent. If we can handle the implicit intent, so if this resolve activity method returns something other than null, then we can go ahead and call start activity. And start activity is going to actually run the implicit intent. So here's the intent object, and we've sent in this, we specified action view, and we want the operating system to handle it, and then we're going to pass in this URI object, which was formed using a string with latitude and longitudinal coordinates. So we take that intent object, pass it in as an argument to our start activity method, and we should be good to go. So I'm going to save this. You could build it if you want. I'm going to go ahead and run it. And I've got a phone running already, an AVD running already. Now, as you're deploying it to the device, if you view the run output down here in Android output, you can see what's happening on the device. Okay, and here's our app. You can see the button that we created has a text property set to open map, and if we click on it, it's going to pass that implicit intent into a using that start activity method call, and you can see that it loads up the map app, and it's the first time I've used it on this phone, so I'm required to initialize it. And it should load up a map with those coordinates, which I believe is Google. So there we have it. That's using an implicit intent. Thanks.